On behalf of the Waterloo Library Historical Society, I welcome you to Fatzinger Hall. Let us take a brief moment to give a special welcome to our previous as well as award recipients who are present tonight. I'm not going to see you if you stand up. I know that the Callahans are here, I believe.
Yeah.
And do we see anybody else?
Dave and Darlene.
Oh, Dave and Darlene are here. They're hiding behind the camera. So thank you all for being here. The annual Wells Awards ceremony places a high honor upon the individuals who have etched their way into the history of our great community. Just as Henry C. Wells had done nearly a century and a half ago, the recipients of this award serve as the inspiration to our community for now and many years to come. Please welcome our board president, Corinne Lowry.
I thank you for all of you for coming tonight. This year's recipient of the Henry C. Wells Award would probably be hard pressed to find anybody in Waterloo that didn't know her. She moved here when she was 2 years old and grew up in her family homestead, her grandmother's, I believe she said. She graduated from Waterloo and went to college, came back here and was married and had two lovely daughters. And she was had a 30-year career as a speech and language therapist in the Waterloo School District. One of the things I admire personally about Gina is her love for kids. When I have been out in the community, at community events, and Gina has been there, it's very rare that I haven't seen a kid, when there's kids at the events, run up and just throw their arms around Gina. She always embraces the child and takes the time to talk to them. In fact, yesterday when we were at the park setting up for the Rotary event, there was two young girls that were sitting at a bench, and they recognized her, and of course Gina took the time to talk with them. She knows that takes the time to show that she truly cares about kids. Gina has also served 3 terms as a village trustee, where she serves on many committees and is actively involved in the downtown revitalization. And still, there's more. She is involved in the Catholic Charities, Phi Beta Psi Sorority, Seneca County Retired Teachers Association, American Cancer Society, Relay for Life, Catholic Daughters of America, the church committees, the Waterloo Rotary Camp Onsiala as a fundraiser committee. She serves on the board of trustees of Trevor's Gift and is down there almost every single week packing bags so the kids can take home food on the weekends. You can also find her running around the park this weekend at the Celebrate Commemorate, as she is a member of that also. She is a strong supporter and advocate for the Waterloo Library Historical Society. We can always count on Gina being at our events and helping the society. We never doubt that she is rooting for us and for our success. More than anything, though, about Gina is that she's a really good person and a friend who believes in supporting her community. And so it's with a great honor that tonight I introduce Gina Suffredini as the 2024 Henry C. Wells Award recipient.
I just want to say thank you to the library board. I do support the library and all of its works. But I also want to thank all of you who are here this evening. My daughters live out of state, so they would be here. One's in Seattle, the other's in Vermont, and she just had a baby 5 weeks ago, so they weren't traveling. But I'm blessed to have my brothers and my sister-in-laws here, and my 2 great nephews, Levi and Owen, that are up in the back with signs and flowers for their Aunt Gina. And my uncle's here, my cousin, and many friends and Rotarians. I'm deeply touched. So for that, I'm very thankful.
Craig Pemberton from Senator O'Mara's office, if you'd like to come up and speak.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, here to the Waterloo Historical Society and this amazing occasion. Love the authenticity. I'm just, glad we don't have a John Wilkes Booth. Senator O'Mara sends his sincerest regrets. Senator O'Mara does send his sincerest regrets that he couldn't be here, but he'll make sure he comes to your next monumental occasion and event. And so, Henry C. Wells had a monumental idea that not only spread nationwide but spanned history. And today, this proclamation will also span history. Come on up. Want me to recite any of this for you, or I can certainly do so, but
Whereas,
and it is resolved. Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite Assemblyman Gallahan to the podium.
Thank you, Cindy. I can't see anyone out there. I'm blind. This room, when I first came here 3 years ago, didn't look anything like it looks today. And I can't be more proud of Cindy and this board for what they've done and how this room is transformed back the way it was many years ago. And I understand that there's something planned here every single month, and it couldn't make me happier. I really think that this is a wonderful, wonderful room. The library does so much for the community, and I was speaking with Gina earlier about libraries, and COVID was a terrible thing that happened to all of us. But out of every black cloud, there's a silver lining. And I think that libraries were the silver lining because many of them bounced back when COVID hit. Folks that needed internet access so that their children could learn and prosper and stay educated were lined up outside the libraries because they had internet connections. And that the programs that they had and they were developing and things that happened during COVID rejuvenated our whole library system here, especially in my district. I visited many of them at that time, and I couldn't be more proud of what's taking place here. I'd like to have a round of applause for Cindy. Thank you for having me here today. It's so exciting to be back at Fatzinger Hall. I still can't believe how good these renovations turned out. I'd like to give a shout out to Cindy, as I have earlier, the board of directors, everybody who's been involved in making Fatzinger Hall such an amazing place. I'd also like to give a big congratulations to Gina and recognize her upon being named the recipient of this year's Henry C. Wells Award. Now, I was here last year, and shame on me, I wasn't very familiar with Henry C. Wells, but now that I have looked into the history of Henry C. Wells, he was probably very well liked man, being that he was a pharmacist here, so I'm sure that he helped a lot of people, and I'm sure that a lot of people were at his door many nights looking for some drugs. Gina has made so many contributions to her community and touched the lives of countless people around her. This year marks the 158th consecutive Memorial Day observance, and while Waterloo is the birthplace of Memorial Day, it takes a commitment of a whole community to keep this solemn tradition alive for so long. The sacrifices made by brave men and women who've given their lives for our country is something that should never be taken for granted. They were sons and daughters, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors. It didn't matter where they came from or their background. What mattered was a single common purpose: to protect the ideals of freedom and democracy that make our country so special. The incredible displays of gratitude, patriotism, and remembrance, such as what we see here in Waterloo, would not be possible without the support of dedicated community members, those who volunteer their time and effort to ensure that each such important event goes off without a hitch. We need a Gina in every single community in our state and country. Think what a great place we would live in. That would be When I read her credentials, it blew me away. I couldn't believe all the organizations that she had been involved in over the years, and the great privilege this community has had to have her live here. And I didn't know she moved here when she was 2. But so for the last 40 years, the community has really benefited, and I would like to congratulate Gina once again and ask her to please come up when she's up here so I can present a New York State proclamation of her receiving this year's Henry C. Wells Award. I won't take up your time to read it, but Josh, could you come up and get a photo? It'd be great. Thank you.
Next, I would like to invite John Butlak down to represent the Village of Waterloo.
Gina has served on the village board for the last 15 years. She's the longest tenured person on the board and has worked under 3 different mayors and has served as deputy mayor. Gina has been instrumental in the reviving of the village through her tenure, culminating with the revitalization initiative through the $10 million DRI grant awarded this year. Without her work, I don't think this gets done. Gina has been a proponent of public safety of the community. She has served on both the Waterloo Police Department and Waterloo Fire Department committees. She has made great strides to make sure that our services remain constant and with proper funding. Gina has also worked tirelessly on updating the village code book and has been part of the personnel committee for many years. Also, she does a lot of the little things that sometimes go unnoticed. People will come up to her and say, I've got a problem with some trees on Brookside Drive, or the flowers that we see adorning the village that doesn't get done without Gina's work. Gina has worked to keep the village budget within the 2% tax cap for many years, thus being fiscally responsible with the taxpayers' dollars. Even when times are tough, she found a way to keep things in line. Gina has also been instrumental in working with the Waterloo Central School District to help provide funding for the continuation and expansion of the Waterloo Community Center summer program for our kids. They rely on it, and a couple of years ago we thought that we were going to get rid of it, and Gina came through and actually made it more prosperous. Thank you for doing that. Gina has always been a champion of the village residents, and she is responsive to their concerns. She's the go-to person. She is approachable and personable with her ability to get things done. One thing that I've known working with Gina the last 7 years is, you know, she doesn't take no for an answer. You know, she works to get things done. She works on both sides of the aisle. You know, this is her. You know, this is her. You know, this is what she was made for. She does a very good job. I've learned a lot from her in a short time, and I think Gina is a great colleague and even a better person who I've been happy to associate with. And I think just getting to know her makes me a better person as well. And there's nobody more deserving for the Henry Wells Award than Gina Suffredini. For you, but if you go back to the office, I got a box of candy.
I could write one up.
Thank you. Next, I would like to invite the 16th president, President Abraham Lincoln.
Thank you so much. Well, Ms. Suffredini, I must say, I don't know you, but I wish I did. Somebody said we need a Gina in every village in New York. I think we all need to be a Gina. I'll tell you why I say that. You know, when the War of the Rebellion began, one of the things that was said to me often was, we entered into this union voluntarily and we can walk out voluntarily. At first glance, that makes sense. But you know, I've thought a lot about that, and I was traveling to Washington and we stopped in Indianapolis, and I said, you know, there's something else to that. Some arrangements, however wonderful they may be, need a legal seal, such as purchasing a house or a horse, getting married. It needs to be, it's entered into voluntarily, but it needs to become public and legally binding. When I married Mrs. Lincoln, I didn't realize that all those lovely desserts she was serving me when we were courting were not made by her. Nor did she realize that I snore. But we had a contract that was legally binding, and believe me, we've had days when, if it weren't for that contract, and that's a good thing. When the war began, we had many who had a patriotic spirit and joined. But it began to wane. I remember about a year into the war, Senator Doolittle brought a young man into my office, and he said, Mr. President, I want you to meet this young man. A year ago, he was shot through the heart at Fort Donelson. And he lived. They sent him back to Wisconsin to recover, and he's here today to volunteer again. You know, there's a vast difference between a drafted soldier and a volunteer such as that. And that's why I say every community needs not just one Gina, because that's the essence of liberty. To do what is required without being made. The more of our citizens that are like this, who volunteer, who do what's needed, what must be done, though they're not paid, though nobody's making them, they have no other incentive other than something inside of them. It's called liberty. It's why we do not need policemen on every corner to make us obey. We are self-governing people, and people like that inspire us all. That's the essence of America, my friends. Let us all become like Gina Suffredini.
And last but certainly not least, I'd like to invite President Theodore Roosevelt.
But once again, I am delighted to be here in Waterloo, New York. It seems like it was just yesterday that I was on the train campaigning throughout the state. One of the places I stopped at, one of the most stop places was Waterloo. It was a great time I had. I gave, I believe, that particular tour because we stopped in every village and every city that had any population at all. We'd stop and give a speech. People would say, how many was that? And I believe it was close to 230 speeches that I gave in about a 6-day period from the back of the train. And people think, how can anybody give so many speeches? Well, one, I'm a politician. But also, I have a politician's trick here and there. One of those is that basically I gave the same speech in every whistle stop. Well, why would you do that? You know? Well, one, not everybody had heard the speech, and by giving a speech that was fairly short, the words were simple, I figured any newspaper reporter would get the story right without too many mistakes later on. But Waterloo was one of those places. In fact, if I recall right, the contingent of the Rough Riders was with me on that particular trip, and one of them mentioned that he had kin in Waterloo. I don't know if he did. I don't know if he's still there, but you know, I had asked the fellow's name. It was Dupre, they said this. And that reminded me of a Dupre from Arizona. And I don't know whether he was from Indiana originally, or New York, or South Carolina, or wherever. But he was after the war, the Spanish-American War, he was in Arizona. Mr. Dupre would be Company C at the time. And I remember he wrote to me while I was in the White House. That's what we call it now. And he said he was in a bit of trouble with the law, and he thought that he had been a good soldier and that I would come and speak for him. He felt that the Rough Riders were well led, and that anything I would say, especially coming from the President of the United States, would carry some weight. Well, I did actually get to see the gentleman. I was on a trip to Texas, and as it was, his lawyer came to see me. His lawyer, he being in jail. Well, what did he do? Well, he's in jail because he shot his wife. Now, she was wounded, okay? It wasn't murder. And I said, well, dear, I hate to think of my Rough Riders, any of them, making any sort of act like that. And though I didn't know this Dupre, well, perhaps he did do it. And so I did visit him. And it turns out, he said it was all a mistake, Mr. Roosevelt. Of course, he called me Colonel back then. That's what I prefer. He said, Colonel, this is a terrible mistake. He said, I said, why? Didn't you shoot her? Didn't you wound her? He said, well, yes, sir. I did wound my wife, but you see, I was aiming at my sister-in-law. I guess different people have different views of justice and right and wrong. But what I've noticed is there's really no right or wrong problems in a village like Waterloo. There's only something needs to be done about this issue or that issue. For example, down in the hallway, down below us, I saw plans for the expansion and improvement of the library. I think this is a marvelous library, a wonderful library, a beautiful building. And I'm glad that there are such people as our honoree who have taken a hand in getting this library improved for not only this generation, but generations to come. I only have one piece of advice, and that is what I've given before. It's not the critic who counts, for there will be plenty of critics for whatever you choose to read. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbled, or how the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. I hope that people in Waterloo, every one of you, is someone that's willing, just like Gina, to get in the arena and make things work and count, and make right and wrong a thing that you can be proud of the choices that you've made in the years to come. With that, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. The awards ceremony, the formal part has come to an end, but please feel free to go downstairs and enjoy any further celebration. We thank you all for your continued support, and please enjoy the 2024 Celebrate Commemorate Memorial Day weekend. We'll see you all around. Thank you.